Good morning, LinkedIn. I hope everybody's well. It's a very, very sunny day in the UK. I'm Mel Johnson from Sussex Social. I am an email and social media consultant, so I help businesses and individuals get a handle on their messaging and actually get it out there. And this morning I'm joined by Vaishali Shah from Creative ID. Vaishali's in Dubai, and we are going to be talking about the relationship between branding and marketing, because there's a lot of myths and I think misunderstandings and misconceptions between what the two mean and how that work together, and that's kind of also intersected with this whole kind of big topic of personal branding. So Vaishali, do you I want to say, if anybody's watching, do give us a shout out and do feel free to pop any questions in the comments and we will answer them as we go. So Vaishali, over to you. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm Vaishali. I run Creative ID, which is a branding and marketing consultancy. I help create standout brands that people believe in, online, in print, on social. I'm all about joining the dots between your branding, your marketing, and your customers to help you get noticed and create long-lasting connections with those customers. And I'm celebrating 25 years in business in 2025.
Yes. So you have got very exciting 25 giveaways, haven't you? Which obviously we can talk a little bit more about at the end. So
Sure.
I think for us really, we wanted to start with defining what branding and marketing actually mean. So I know you have a little quote that you like to use. So yes. I will let you use that one. I won't credit myself with it.
Thank you. So what I say is that branding shows up, marketing shows off. And what I mean by that is that branding is how you show up in the world. It's your values, it's your tone of voice, it's your visual identity, it's the emotions that you want to evoke, it's the promises that you make and keep. So that to me is what your branding is. And your marketing, on the other hand, is the spotlight. It's how you amplify what you stand for. So it's where you get to show off your work, your tone of voice, your results. And that can be through marketing campaigns, through your social media, through emails, through hosting events, through PR. So that's how I kind of define it. Branding shows up, marketing shows off.
Yeah, and I think that's a really I just love that. It's just so succinct. I think I saw somebody else sharing it and crediting you as well. So and I think also that is, and we'll kind of get down into the relationship between those two in a little bit more detail. But I think today that's kind of intersected with personal branding and employee branding. I was actually, funny enough, I was writing about it last week, because now when I do a plan, I kind of, we look at, like, actually strategically, who do we need to be engaging with, who do we need to be talking to, rather than when I started working in sales and marketing, and it was all very much kind of broadcast message. There wasn't really any kind of customer interaction. And I think the rise of social media and possibly the rise of people using AI is that, marketing's become a lot more kind of human centric, and what your customers and what your employees or the people within your business say about you is really, really powerful. So I feel like the branding and marketing is sort of intersected with that employee and personal branding, which is simply what, for personal branding, I know a lot of people find the terminology quite icky, but it's simply what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you want to relabel it, you probably call it your professional reputation, just to make you feel little bit like, God, I've got to take pictures of my dog or my cup of tea, or talk about all the things that I don't want to. And I think, but as a business as well, you've got that. You have control over your branding, but only to a certain extent. So it's really important to kind of work out that your employees are kind of advocates of you and for you, and they understand the brand and your marketing and what you stand for. So I guess, so our next question is around, how do branding and marketing work together? Like, what's the relationship between the two? Because there's some commonalities, but there's obviously some differences. So what's your kind of take on that then, Vaishali?
So to me, they definitely work together. It's like shoes and shoelaces. They work better together. And without branding, then marketing has no clear message to show off. You need the two. And without marketing, no one can see your brand. So really, it's about having a strong, consistent brand so that marketing can work at its best to promote that brand, because if you have a weak brand, marketing, you know, can only go so far. And by them working together, it's also less overwhelming, and also it's more cost efficient, because if you know who you're targeting, you know who your target audience is, you built a strong brand, the marketing knows, you know how to spend your marketing time, your marketing budget on the correct channels, on the right resources. So that's how it works. How it works well together, by having a strong brand, so that marketing can work with it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely key. And actually, one of the things that I think people, I think one of the things that people kind of forget, and it's really difficult even in sort of larger businesses, because you know the reality is not all of us have endless budgets or endless pools of cash. But I think quite often people think, oh, you know, we're going to set up a business, or a business has grown and we need to change something. I think often that kind of knee-jerk gut reaction is, oh my God, we need to go out and do more LinkedIn, or we need to start writing blogs, or we need to improve our SEO and sort of that. But actually, I think what you're saying, and what I totally agree with, it's that laid, that solid foundation, and getting your brand right from the outset, so your marketing, when you do start, is more effective, and you don't suddenly start and then think, God, I don't know whether this is working. I don't know whether it's fulfilling our objectives as our business. And I think actually for both of us, it's the bit before you even start with the branding. It's that really kind of clear research piece. So you understand what you're trying to achieve, what your brand values are, where you should market, and all of those different things that kind of need to fit together, which, you know, I think for some people feels like a really big investment at first. But actually, as you say, once you get kind of further down the line, you realise that it makes things so much easier, because you're drawing people back to getting to know you, know, like, and trust you, but also actually to the point where it's subliminal. And if they see something, they think, oh, we know that that's Creative ID, or we know that's a Sussex Social, or we know that that's Mel and or Vaishali, for example. Or to use what we see a tick and we all know that that's the Nike logo. Not that any of us, probably anybody watching, has got that level of marketing budget, but you know, and kind of like those things take time. So I think like how, so in terms of how they work together, it's kind of laying that solid foundation. Do you want to talk about some of the things that marketing includes? Because I think quite often people kind of gravitate to thinking it's just about having a logo.
Yes, so exactly. So people think branding is, oh, I've got my logo, that's fine. So no, your logo is very important, but actually you want to create a full branding experience. And to me, branding is very emotive. You want to evoke emotions. So you have your logo, you have the fonts that you use, you have your tone of voice, you have your messaging. It's the way you know you present yourself on a LinkedIn Live. It's how you answer the phone. It's your email signature. It's your website. It's everything about you, and creating that experience for a customer. So the logo is a strong part, but there's just so many more factors to consider. And by having all of those in place, that's where you create a strong brand, a strong experience, where you become recognizable, like exactly as you said, Mel, the Nike swoosh. You become recognizable for who you are.
Yeah.
So that's very
Yeah.
important.
And I think that values and kind of what you stand for and who your audience are and what you would need for you is the real way that sort of marketing and branding intersect. I mean, I'll share an example that I gave Vaishali about my own experience of back in lockdown. I wrote an online social media course, which I don't do anymore for lots of different reasons. But I remember what I decided to do before I wrote it and launched it was actually have a chat with 12 people in my audience to find out what they would need from that course. And actually what one of the ladies said to me, which we didn't know each other particularly well, but she'd been to a couple of training sessions that I'd run, and she said to me, I just feel like your branding, I don't know, your logo and the colours, she said, because she's I think she's like a wellness expert, so she's not a marketer. She said, I don't feel that there's a real disconnect between what that brand looks like and when we meet you. And actually what had happened was that my husband and I, because he's a silent partner in the business, he'd got a designer he knew to kind of do us a bit of a favour in terms of getting the doing the branding for the website. Now, she's a very good designer, but she designs things for financial institutions. So it was very blue, very corporate, probably doesn't really reflect me or us or who we are at all. So that was a really interesting piece of feedback that kind of led to me changing my branding. So I think that values piece and understanding who your target audience is absolutely critical right from the beginning when you lay that solid foundation, rather than, I think sometimes people go with the gut instinct of choosing a colour they like, for example, or a font that they like. Would you agree with that? Is that kind of, when you start with a branding project with somebody, is that sometimes something that
yeah. And I think also that's why it's important to choose the right branding partner, the right marketing partner,
yes,
because it's got to be that they resonate with you, but also your target audience. So I follow trends, but for me, it's about strategic design, strategic marketing. It's not what's in trend. Yes, I know what's happening in the world, but it's what is best for the client and their target audience. So it doesn't matter what my favorite color is. It doesn't matter what their favorite color is what is going to resonate with their target audience. And that's why, going back to what you said about the foundation and the clarity and the research, that's why it's really such an important starting point, because everything follows from that. So yes, it's very important to have that strong foundation.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think over time, that strong foundation it's what helps you to stand out. And like we said previously, I think when we talk about branding, we're talking a lot about the visual elements, but actually, it's about the language you use. And if you're writing emails, for example, it's about creating that tone of voice that reflects your business and actually is really easy for your audience to understand. But I also think one of the things that's really key is actually it's not about if you're really clear in your target audience and what you're trying to achieve for your marketing, and also I think in this world of trends, what type of content they like to consume and where they're actually spending their time is so helpful, because unfortunately there is no blueprint for this stuff that Vaishali and I can say, because quite frankly, if there was and it worked, then we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation, and none of us would be on LinkedIn in the hottest day of the year so far. But I think it's, there's a real freedom in understanding exactly what your audience want to see from you, where they are. Not everything's going to work. It's a kind of a case of testing and measuring. But actually, sometimes it's really nice to be able to go, do you know what? Actually, we don't need to be doing a load of videos, for example, because our target audience don't like video. They're never going to engage with that. So it's really important to do. Or we think we should be using Instagram. Actually, we've done a bit of research and our audience aren't on Instagram, but actually really surprisingly, they're on Facebook or Blue Sky or whatever it might be. So I think it's really key to get that piece right and make sure that your objectives for branding and then promoting your business and what you're going to be focusing on are kind of aligned, and that also that the people who are working across that and within your business understand what that means and why you've chosen that, rather than the two kind of being siloed from your employees or your salespeople, which I know happens a lot, but that's kind of off topic. So I think one of the things actually is I think, in the current market where we're in, where I think people are feeling a little bit strapped for cash. Sorry, this is totally off topic, Vaishali. A little bit. I feel like sometimes people they don't necessarily understand why they might need to invest in branding. I know Michelle Newman's made a few comments, and I know she has just had a little bit of a rebrand, I think. So she kind of understands the importance of that. But I think, because people don't see that direct return on investment, they can feel a little bit reluctant to start investing in branding or start marketing their business, because the reality is quite often this is the first thing that gets cut. So, I've got quite a few things the reasons why I think you should be investing in those things. But what would you say were your kind of top reasons
to invest in a strong brand?
Yeah.
I understand, like at the beginning of a business journey, you set up a business, funds are limited, so you may do a DIY logo, you may, design it yourself, get a friend to design it. I understand as a starting point, but if you want to ramp up your business, you want to elevate it, upscale, I think then a DIY logo is not necessarily going to work for you, because, and that's where the expert comes in with their knowledge. They will ask you the right questions. So I send out a questionnaire to any clients that I'm going to start working with. And I want those questions to be thought provoking, so that actually they think, what is it about their business that makes them different? For example, where do they want to be? What are their plans for the next 6 months, 12 months? Because a good brand should stand its test of time. I don't want someone to come back to me every year for a rebrand, unless their business has changed radically, then I haven't done my job correctly. So it is an investment, but actually, if you work with the right partner, it'll stand the test of time. And we've got so many examples of whether it's the Coca-Cola logo, the Nike logo, that has just, been the same logo for so many years. When it works, it works. So for me, it's a really important piece to kind of understand what your business is about, and then articulating that visually in the form of a logo, and then tone of voice and everything that follows. So it is key investment, and especially if you want to, upscale your business, because let's face it, it's a crowded, noisy place.
Yeah.
That I think in all industries that we're in. So if you want to stand out and kind of create that connection, create that touch, create that trust, that emotion with your target audience, then branding is an important part.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. Actually, I think so. I think for a business owner or a board that's investing, or even employees, having that strong brand gives people confidence in that brand and being able to talk about it. And I think also if you're selling a high value product or service that you're expecting people to invest in, you do need that strong premium looking brand, because otherwise people are just, it's not, they're not going to think it's for them. They're not going to think it's for them. But I think there's also, so it's that looking at that and thinking, okay, how does this impact on my growth kind of year on year and over time, rather than this is kind of a quick fix because we need it now. But also, as you touched on, it's about future proofing as well. How do we lay a solid foundation for something that is going to still be around in 5 years' time? And yes, that might need tweaking or changing as things go, and trends come and go. So we all need to be aware of these things, but they're not necessarily kind of forming the crux of it. So I think it's that kind of investment from the outset, laying that foundation, being like, oh my God, this looks amazing. We all really want to shout about it because we're feeling really excited. Because that could, that's great for kind of business motivation as well. And then actually, how are we going to get this out there, market it and promote it in a way that's kind of consistent, is reaching our target audience, and again is laying that foundation for kind of long-term growth, rather than, we've got a flash sale in 2 weeks and we just want to get rid of all of our products.
Look at the creative
So
idea.
yes,
Sorry.
go on.
So I was just going to say, if I look at my own Creative ID logo, so 25 years, I started with one logo, and I came from a corporate background, and it was blue and silver, which is so not creative. But I started with that, and then I've had this logo. So I've only rebranded once in 25 years. So for me, it stood the test of time, and that's then when you work out, your ROI and you do the maths, then actually for 23 years, I've use the same logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I think, like, just again from a sort of personal perspective, we had one rebrand in 2020. Actually, no, I started off in 2017 with the DIY logo that I did myself, which I roll out on the 1st of January every single year. And actually, when I look at it, I'm like, it looks terrible, but I'm not a designer, and I did not know so much about these things then. And then we had obviously the rebrand where it was more corporate and very blue. And then I had another rebrand in 2020. And I think actually business names are kind of part of your ID. And obviously my business is called the Sussex Social, because when I set it up, I was predominantly offering social media services within Sussex. lockdown happened and I had clients in Hong Kong, Frankfurt and Australia, I think. So it wasn't really Sussex based, but actually, I think so I do go through sort of phases of, and obviously I do a lot more email marketing strategies as well. And I do go through phases where I think, oh my God, should I change this to like Melanie Johnson marketing or something like that? But obviously it's about it being the right time and having the headspace. So I know we've talked about, a whole plethora of things in the last sort of 20 minutes in terms of like, you should have a strong brand, you should have marketing. So I think one of the things that I know is your idea that you like to talk about is this kind of multiple touch points. So do you want to sort of feed into kind of what we mean by that? Because I think it's something that gets bandied around quite a lot in marketing and sales, to be honest. So do you want to just give us a little snappy definition and some things that people might want to think about that they haven't considered before?
Definitely. So a touch point as a definition is where your brand and your customer or prospective customer come together, both physically and digitally. So it's any interaction where your customers experience or connect your brand. And that's why it's so important, because your first impressions can become your lasting connections. And there's lots of different touch points. So your packaging, for example, is a touch point. Your website is a touch point. Your social media is a touch point. Your onboarding form, your welcome gift, you send a handwritten note when somebody's finished a project with you. Those are all touch points. But there's also some what I call invisible touch points, which are small but equally powerful. So, for example, your email signature. Your email signature is such an important piece of real estate. If you imagine every email that you send out, what are you doing in your email signature? Are you sending a link to a blog post that you've written? Are you talking about you're promoting a new service or product? There's a lot of things that you can put in that email signature and kind of keep updating it. Similarly, your Zoom background. If you're a product-based business, have you got your products in the back of your in your Zoom background? You can have branded Zoom backgrounds. These are all important touch points. Similarly, if you're trying to, if you find that a lot of clients are coming to you through an inquiry form on your website, what is that inquiry form looking like? Is it something that's going to put someone off because you've just asked too many questions and you think, gosh, if this is just to get a phone call or an email meeting, it's going to put me off. So all of those things are touch points, which when you kind of add up and put them together and kind of create that meaningful experience, that's what will set you apart. That's what will get you recognized. That's what your reputation is. So it's really about focusing on the power of these touch points to kind of create that great customer experience. So it's
yeah, and I mean, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of that is subliminal. I mean, I did media sales for 12 years, and it used, there used to be the old rule of 7 for sales, which is, people need 7 touch points, which is actually based on some research they did around movie posters in California in the 1930s. So, the idea was that actually people need to see this poster 7 times before they would buy a ticket to go to see that movie, which of course is based on quite a low ticket item, but it's become a bit of an urban myth. And of course now we've got so many more touch points. We're sort of, they think it might take between 5 and 52 contacts with somebody before they'll actually even consider buying from you. So I think it's all about kind of thinking about what are those kind of subliminal little touches. And I think, social media and email can be a really good example of this, because, particularly with email marketing, it does get quite a bad rap. I love it. But actually somebody might not open that email, but I got an email from something I'm signed up to last week. I've not opened it. Every single time I look at my Gmail, it's top of the promotions tab. So that business is still, there's kind of doing that work while you're sleeping, because they've got that strong subject line, strong header. And social media is, a really good example of that, actually. But, it's all like you and I talked about this the other day, didn't we? It's all about having that real kind of just being consistent. Yes. Making sure you show up in the right places at the right times and on what's right for you. So Obviously we've talked and talked, but I think we wanted to just give people some sort of practical and easy ways that they could kind of improve the relationship between their branding and marketing. I've got lots of notes here, but I will let you, Vaishali, what would be your kind of, if you've got to start thinking about these things, what would be the type of things, or doing a little bit of research around what people are actually saying about you, thinking about you, what your brand looks like? How would you recommend people get started?
So firstly, I mean, you can Google yourself and see what comes up. It's funny, I was at an personal branding talk last week, and I was told that actually put your name and company name in ChatGPT and see what comes up, because obviously they're taking it from different sources and see what comes up. Is it actually what you want to come up, or are there key values, key messaging that's not coming up? So I think that's an interesting exercise. What I would say firstly is to kind of audit your brand, because we're talking about branding, but audit it. So review your logo, look at the fonts, look at the colors, look at your tone of voice. Are they consistent across all platforms? Is it the same messaging? And does your brand still reflect your current values and your audience? So if you set up, you had your logo and branding done 3 years ago, today, is it still relevant? Is it still working for you? And what I kind of say is that if someone landed on your website, your Instagram, and your newsletter, would they instantly know it's the same business? Because if you've got that consistency, then they're going to know it's the same business. So, look at that, if I looked at your last Instagram post, would I know it's you? So I think that audit's important.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that really sort of, purely from a marketing perspective as well, Googling yourself, actually, you can find it if you've got any broken links on your website. Have you got a directory listing somewhere that's been there, was updated 2 years ago, that you've totally forgotten about? It's just kind of really useful from that, because that is all kind of part of your branding and marketing and getting people to understand what you're saying and what you stand for. And I think for me as well, and I think is actually I think we all get a little bit worried about asking for testimonials, asking for feedback, but I think actually asking people what do they think about your brand. It could be people that know you well or perhaps not so well. Does it resonate with them? What are the things they like about? And I think one of the key questions is always actually why do you work with me, or why didn't you work with me? Because I think sometimes we think that the reasons people choose us are probably different from the assumptions we make about that. And I think those kind of questions can be really key for sort of informing your branding and marketing. So yeah, but I do, as you said, I think it's just going back to basics. It's taking a step back, or getting somebody else to help you actually look at your brand, look at your values, look at what you stand for. I had a conversation with somebody a little while ago, and she said they've gone through a massive period of business growth. And she said, if I asked everybody in the office to define what the business is and what we do, we would get 20 different answers. Which they'd recognise as something that they needed to address. So I think those things are really key. So I think we're sticking well to time. So I think, just to really summarise, I think it's all about sort of defining what your branding and marketing is, laying a solid foundation for that. So your values, your audience, colours, logos, what you actually want to achieve, and then making sure you've got the right marketing messages and the right channels and the right type of content to actually get out and promote that. Doing a little bit of work, so perhaps a little brand audit, or even just Googling yourself, particularly if you're going to go and sit in the garden on this nice sunny afternoon. Vaishali has the sun all this time because she's in Dubai. So, but also I think we mentioned your 2025. So I guess the next thing is, how can people get in contact with us? So obviously we're both on LinkedIn. Joanna Southwell said, excellent session. Thank you both. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Joanna, and everybody else that's watching. So I think we both obviously here on LinkedIn. lurking around quite often. So if you have got any questions or you want to get into contact with either of us, then do let us know. Vaishali, do you want to talk about how people can get in contact with you? You've got a few things you do every month and ongoing, don't you, to help
so LinkedIn
get a handle on these things.
Thank you. So LinkedIn is a great platform for me. Also, you can sign up to Crop Mark, which went out this morning, which is my monthly bulletin all about creativity, news, recommendations. I talk about touch points, and what you can be doing from a branding and marketing point of view. So it's only once a month, but hopefully you'll find it kind of interesting and pick up some tips. I've had really good feedback from it. And because it's my 25th year in business, I've got lots of exciting things planned for this year. So again, if you sign up to Cropmark, you'll be first in the know. So one thing that Mel is kindly supporting me with is I have a 25 for 25 giveaway. So to celebrate the 25 years, I've had 25 amazing people, business contacts, collaborators that have donated these fantastic prizes for kind of business owners. And there's going to be a charitable donation of £25. But you're in with a chance to, everyone will win something, but you will win a fantastic prize from Mel's kindly given an audit. We've got photo shoots. We've got dinner for two at my Michelin star chef client's restaurant in London. We've got web audits, creative consultancy. We've got some fantastic 25 prizes that I've kind of handpicked. So that will be launching soon, but Cropmark, you'll hear about it first. So my way of giving back and making an impact for charity.
Yeah, lovely. And Charlie, do you want to share the link to Cropmark in the comments once we've finished? So you can contact me via my website, which is thesussexsocial.co.uk. But also every fortnight, I send out an email with tips and news and things like that. But actually, the one thing I do, which I will be announcing the winner later today, is win a monthly 60-minute mini marketing review. Obviously, we can't, audit all of your marketing in 60 minutes. But what it is, it's just everybody goes into the prize draw once they sign up via the website, and I'll share the link either, and then I draw it on the last day of the month. And that person gets a free 60-minute mini review with me on something they want to focus on. So that might be improving your presence on LinkedIn, for example. It could be actually we've got some content we're not really sure about, or it could be looking at kind of some strategies for emails and getting that set up. And, that's a sort of online one-to-one with me where we just run through the sort of problems you're having and try and come up with some actionable mini tips that you can implement straight away. So I think that's what. So yeah, but as I said, we'll both share those links. So Vaishali, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you. I can see there's quite a few people still watching, so thanks everybody. We do hope you found it useful, and do send us a DM or put anything in the comments if you've got any further questions or things you want to ask about, and we will see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.